A week before his stroke, Harold dropped his favorite mug. He said his hand just felt off, not painful, just strange. Would you have connected that to a stroke? Most people wouldn't. And yet, that was his body whispering, something serious is coming. Today I want to share with you 5 surprising early signs of stroke that can happen up to a week before the actual attack. These signs are easy to miss, but recognizing them in time can save your life or the life of someone you love. We'll break each one down with simple steps you can take today. No panic, no pressure, just calm clarity. Because you deserve to feel safe, strong, and informed. Let's start with something many folks shrug off: sudden clumsiness. If you've noticed yourself tripping more often, bumping into doorways, or even dropping your cup of tea for no clear reason, please don't rush to blame just age. Yes, our joints stiffen a bit and our reflexes slow over time. That's natural. But sudden or unusual clumsiness, especially when it comes on without warning, might not be just wear and tear. In some cases, it's actually a small warning. That blood isn't reaching certain parts of the brain the way it should. And when that happens, balance and coordination can be the first to suffer, often days before a stroke. That's why this is one of the signs I always ask about, even if patients think it's nothing. I remember a patient named Harold, 72 years old, retired mechanic from Dayton, Ohio. Strong guy, always on his feet, always fixing things around the house. One Thursday, he told me he'd stumbled on his living room rug twice that day, the same rug he's had for 15 years. Then, later that evening, he knocked over his glass of water, just reaching for the remote. He figured he was tired from yard work and didn't think twice about it. But his wife Susan called me anyway. She said, "He just seems off today. Nothing big, but it's not like him." That call might have saved his life. We got him in the next morning, and his blood pressure was through the roof. A scan showed he'd had a minor TIA, what some call a mini-stroke. It didn't cause damage, thank goodness, but it was a loud wake-up call. With medication and a few lifestyle shifts, Harold's doing well today. But he tells everyone now, don't ignore it if your body feels off. I almost did. His story isn't rare. Another woman I knew, Ellen, 69, from Phoenix, thought she was just being clumsy when she started dropping her knitting needles. She too had an early warning sign, so here's what I recommend if you feel something's off with your balance or grip. Take a quiet moment and test yourself. Try walking in a straight line, heel to toe. See if you feel steady. Then raise both arms straight out in front of you and hold for 10 seconds. If one side starts to drift or drop, or if your steps feel unstable, don't wait. Even if things go back to normal, please call your doctor or go to urgent care. These episodes come and go, but the damage can build. And fast action gives you more treatment options. You know your body better than anyone. And if it suddenly starts doing something unfamiliar, even something small, that's not a reason to panic, it's a reason to pause. Think of it like your body tapping you on the shoulder, gently saying, "Hey, check on me." You're not overreacting, you're staying one step ahead. And that step could keep you walking strong for many more years to come. Here's something many people brush off as just eye strain, but it might be more serious. If you ever notice sudden blurred vision, especially in just one eye, or experience a short episode where that eye goes completely dark even for a few seconds, that's not something to ignore. I've seen far too many older adults write it off as tiredness, allergies, or just getting older, but here's the truth. Your eyes are closely connected to your brain. A sudden vision change, especially on one side, can mean a temporary blockage in the blood flow to your brain, what we call a TIA or a mini-stroke. And that's often the body's early warning siren before a more serious stroke occurs. These changes can be painless and easy to dismiss, which is why they're so dangerous if overlooked. I remember a woman named Margaret, 68 years old, from Charleston, South Carolina. She's a retired teacher and loves doing crossword puzzles. In the morning, one Sunday, she told me she sat down with her coffee, looked down at the page, and half the puzzle just looked foggy. She thought it was her glasses at first, so she cleaned them, still blurry. Then she thought, maybe it's my allergies acting up. It lasted maybe 10-15 minutes, and then, just like that, her vision cleared. She didn't think much more of it. But 4 days later, while talking to her daughter on the phone, her words started slurring mid-sentence. That's when her daughter called 911. In the ER, scans showed Margaret had suffered a mild stroke, and the vision problem had been her first warning. Thankfully, it wasn't severe, and she's made a full recovery with speech therapy and medication. But she always says now, if I'd spoken up earlier, maybe that second part wouldn't have happened. Another man I saw, Louis, 71, had similar symptoms but caught it in time and avoided the stroke altogether. His only regret, not knowing what it meant before. What I often tell people is this: sudden vision problems, even if they go away quickly, are not normal, and they're never something to wait and see about. One of the simplest things you can do is keep a notebook or log handy. If your vision changes for any reason, jot down the date, time, which eye, and how long it lasted. Then call your doctor that same day. If it happens again or is accompanied by confusion, dizziness, or weakness, go to the ER right away. Don't drive yourself, call someone, or use emergency services. It's better to hear everything's fine than to miss a critical early warning. Your eyes are more than how you see the world. They're also how your brain sometimes sends quiet alerts. Think of a blurry eye like a flickering porch light. You wouldn't ignore it if the wiring was faulty. You'd check it before the whole house went dark. And that's what this is about. Checking in with yourself before something bigger happens. You're not being dramatic, you're being wise. And wisdom, especially in health, is one of the most powerful tools you've got. Another early warning sign that often gets overlooked is unexpected tiredness, the kind that doesn't go away with a nap. If you've ever found yourself suddenly needing 2 or even 3 naps a day when you're usually fine with one, or if you feel like your mind's moving through molasses, slower, foggier, harder to stay focused, that's not always just age. In older adults, that kind of deep fatigue or mental slowdown can sometimes mean certain areas of the brain aren't getting enough oxygen. It's subtle, and it's easy to blame on poor sleep, stress, or just a busy week. But when this kind of brain fog appears out of the blue and sticks around, it may be your body waving a red flag, a warning that a mini-stroke or even a full stroke could be on the horizon. And the earlier we catch it, the more options we have to protect your brain and independence. I had a patient named Frank, 74 years old, retired postmaster from Tulsa. He came in because his daughter insisted something just didn't feel right with him that week. She said he kept mixing up names, even calling her by her sister's name 3 times, which wasn't like him at all. He brushed it off, said he was just tired, but when I asked more questions, he admitted he'd been dozing off 3 or 4 times a day, sometimes while watching TV, other times right after lunch. He hadn't changed his medication, his sleep was normal, and he wasn't sick. That raised a flag for me. I asked him to do a few simple memory and coordination checks, and he fumbled one that he usually aced during his annual visits. We ordered a scan, and sure enough, there were signs of a very small TIA that had passed unnoticed. Frank started treatment immediately and hasn't had another episode since. Another woman I worked with, Rita, 70, from Sacramento, said she felt like she was walking through a fog all week. She couldn't finish her usual Sudoku puzzles and kept forgetting why she walked into a room. Her husband noticed it first, and thanks to that, we caught her early signs too. In both cases, it started with fatigue that felt off, not extreme, just different. What I always suggest is this: when tiredness feels unfamiliar, heavier, more mental than physical, or paired with confusion, write it down. Jotty. The date, the time, and what you were doing. If it happens more than once, bring those notes to your doctor. That's often what makes the difference, being able to describe the change clearly. You don't need to explain it away, you just need to notice it and act. And if it clears up quickly, still mention it. A single moment of brain fog might not mean much, but when it happens out of nowhere, it's worth checking. Your body's way of slowing you down isn't always about rest. Sometimes it's about warning. Think of fatigue like a porch light dimming for a second. You don't need to panic, but you do need to look at the wiring. You're not lazy or forgetful. You're paying attention, and that's powerful. You deserve a mind that feels sharp, steady, and clear. And if that clarity ever fades even a little, you have every right to pause and ask why. Because protecting your peace of mind is just as important as protecting your heart or your lungs. It's part of taking good care of you. Let me bring up something people often try to sleep off, a strange or intense headache that feels different from anything you've had before. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of headache you get from skipping coffee or staying up too late. I'm talking about a sudden, strong pain in your head that comes out of nowhere. Maybe like a pressure, a pulsing, or even what some call a thunderclap. If you're someone who doesn't usually get headaches, or if this one feels sharper or more unsettling than usual, it's worth paying attention. In older adults, a severe headache with no clear cause can mean a blood vessel in the brain is under stress. Sometimes it's the brain's way of sounding an alarm, an early sign that a stroke may be coming. And the tricky part is, many people will take some over-the-counter pain relief, lie down and hope it passes. But when it's a symptom like this, ignoring it might mean missing your body's warning before something serious happens. One of my patients, Elaine, 66, from Tampa, came to see me after she had what she called the worst headache of her life. She told me it woke her up at 4 a.m., like someone hit her with a hammer right between the eyes. She doesn't usually get migraines, and this one wasn't like anything she'd felt before. She took a couple of Tylenols and waited. It did fade by morning, but she felt a little dizzy and shaky afterward. She didn't mention it to anyone. A week later, while folding laundry, she dropped a towel and realized her left hand wouldn't close. It just hung there. That's when she called 911. In the hospital, they confirmed she'd had a stroke, and her brain scan showed signs of earlier pressure that had likely caused that headache. Elaine made a good recovery, but it could have been better if she'd come in right after that first pain. I also had a gentleman named George, 72, from Kansas City. He described his headache as a balloon popping inside his skull. His wife insisted he go in, and it turned out to be a minor brain bleed. Because they caught it early, they prevented a full stroke. What often helps in situations like this is simply this: notice the difference. If a headache comes on fast, feels wrong, or doesn't go away with rest, especially if you're not prone to headaches, take it seriously. One easy way to track it is to write down the time it starts, how it feels, sharp, dull, pounding, and whether it comes with other symptoms like vision changes, nausea, or weakness. If any of those appear, or if the pain feels unfamiliar, call your doctor right away or go to urgent care. The faster you act, the more we can do to help. Think of pain as your body's built-in alarm system. It's not trying to scare you, it's trying to protect you. You've gotten through tough things in your life, and you didn't do that by ignoring the signs. Trust yourself, trust your gut, and know this: asking for help isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And even small choices, like speaking up about one strange headache, can be the start of saving something big. And now let's talk about one of the most important but easiest to miss warning signs: a moment of slurred speech or a slight droop in your face. You might look in the mirror one morning and notice your smile seems a bit uneven, or maybe your lip feels a little numb while brushing your teeth. Or someone might point out that you sound like you're mumbling or talking funny. These symptoms can last just a few minutes and then disappear completely, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Many older adults assume it's dehydration, or maybe they slept on their cheek wrong, or they think it's just my nerves. But the truth is, even a short episode of facial drooping or slurred speech can be your brain warning you that something serious is on the way. These signs often show up during a TIA, a mini-stroke, and they can be the body's final signal before a full stroke strikes. And when it comes to strokes, every second truly counts. I'll never forget George, 79, retired high school coach from Toledo. He came into my office a few days after an odd experience he'd brushed off. He told me that while brushing his teeth, he looked in the mirror and thought his lip looked uneven, like one side wasn't moving the same as the other. A bit later, during breakfast, his wife noticed that he was slurring his words slightly, just for a minute or two. He was drinking coffee and didn't even realize it himself, but luckily she insisted they call 911. When the paramedics arrived, his symptoms had already cleared up, and he felt perfectly fine. But the hospital confirmed that he'd experienced a transient ischemic attack. Without treatment, a major stroke might have followed within days. I also treated Linda, 70, from Boise, who had a similar moment while reading aloud to her grandson. She said her words just started coming out all wrong, and she couldn't control it. Again, it lasted less than 5 minutes, but thankfully, her daughter recognized the signs and called for help. That decision made all the difference. What often helps here is remembering something simple: FAST. That stands for face. Is one side drooping? Arms can both be raised equally. Speech, is it slurred or odd? And time. If you notice any of these, it's time to call emergency services right away. Don't wait to see if it gets worse. Don't wait for it to happen again. Even if the symptoms vanish, they've already said enough. You don't need to understand why it happened. You just need to treat it seriously and get checked. Think of these brief symptoms like a fire alarm that stops ringing after a few seconds. Sure, the sound is gone, but the cause may still be smoldering. And the sooner you act, the better your chances of preventing real damage. You've earned the right to live these years feeling sharp and steady, and you deserve to use every tool, including awareness, to keep yourself safe. One small decision, one quick call can lead to years of health you didn't risk losing. If even one of these signs felt familiar to you, don't ignore it. Write down when it happened, tell someone you trust, and please share in the comments. Which tip stood out the most? Your story might help someone else recognize a danger they didn't see coming. If this video helped you feel even a little more prepared, please tap like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our weekly health tips made just for you. And always remember, you are not alone. You are stronger than you think, And life continues, especially when you hold it gently by the hand.